Hey people, what's up? I finished the game Battlefield 4 and I actually liked it, so I thought I'd give my thoughts. I sure hope you enjoyed it because I pretty much did. It is actually one of those few games which actively shows like a good World War III scenario. What I mean is this is one of the few games where we actually get to see the Russians and the Chinese fight side by side against the Americans. But in the end it had a happy ending. I mean, the conflict was diffused peacefully and I guess all the bad guys died. Now there are some things that I have in question regarding the game itself. What I dislike the most is since China is a communist country, do you know that it banned the sale of the game in that country because it painted China as the villain? I mean seriously, whatever they don't like, they ban. I mean that's kind of idiotic if you ask me. But in general, I put the entire plot of the game together and I decided to figure out how it all went down, and I do have some questions actually. Okay, so this is how it goes. In a certain future event, tensions between Russia and the West are at their height because of the events of Battlefield 3. After that, a rogue Chinese admiral wants to ignite those tensions, which is why he gains the support of the Russians. Since there are coming elections in China, and what better way to get people on your side than to give them an enemy? So what he does is he assassinates Jin Jae, the current popular leader who wants to rule China, and he blames it on the Americans so that a war can start between the two sides. We will have a Russo-Chinese alliance on one side against the West. I mean, obviously, if the US is going in, then so will all its allies. This has been confirmed on two accounts. The first one was the first mission of Battlefield 4, where we got to see Tombstone bringing in intel. And the second one was when an asset in China tipped them off. I mean, it's presumably Hannah. However, what they also noticed is that Chang actually failed to kill Jin Jae. I mean, he may have wounded him of some sorts, but he actually failed to kill him. Which is why we see the events of Shanghai after the US 7th Fleet went in to respond to certain growing tensions. That's where Tombstone moves in to save Jin Jae and Hannah alongside the CIA, and after that they then go back to the USS Valkyrie, where they are presumed to go home and bring the news that Jin Jae is actually alive. However, we also noticed that the big EMP blast that happened in Shanghai was actually in response to the US troops on the East Coast to disable all their comms. Because of that, Chang started his war a little early by destroying the USS Titan and killing off many ships that are already in the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea. Which is why we have the entire thing going to shit, and the US cannot move forward because the Chinese PLA has basically crippled them. In order to break free from that, let's say, so-called prison, the US forces mount an attack on Chinese-occupied Singapore, where they then must destroy the planes and presumably ships so that they can retreat. Which, as you know, is successful. Speaking of which, I mean, where the hell is the Singaporean military? I mean, Singapore is an ally of the US. Why aren't they helping? But anyway, back to the plot. With the PLA crippled, the US forces are free to retreat back to safe water so that they can get Jin Jae to safety. That's where they try to head to US allied Europe by going underneath Southeast Asia through the Indian Ocean and through the Suez Canal. However, Chang, because he interrogated Tombstone in the Kunlun Mountains, has found out where the USS Valkyrie is headed to, which is why he then mounts an assault on Egypt. That's where we then see Egyptian and US military forces fighting off the Chinese. And, you know, the game can end there. It can either end with Chang being destroyed and Jin Jae bringing out the truth, or Chang killing Jin Jae, but the US forces managing to retake the Nile River. However, World War III will continue because Jin Jae is apparently dead, and there's absolutely no way to prove that the Americans didn't kill him. Sounds simple enough. What I don't understand is like two questions. Now, while the US ships are retreating from China, why do they have to go all the way to US allied Europe? I mean, they might as well just go back to the US if they want to go that far. I mean, they could go to Taiwan, which is another US ally. And even if that place was compromised, because China and Taiwan have had their big differences for over 70 years, then they can always go to another place. They can go to Japan or South Korea, which are also very strong US allies. And even if they went all the way down to Australia, which is also US allied, that would still take a lot less time. I mean, when you come to think of it, US allied Europe is actually the furthest from this place. What actually brought them to get that idea? And also the second question is, Why were there US troops in Tashgar? Now, you remember my favorite mission in the game, Tashgar? Well, Tashgar is actually based off a real location in China. There's a city close to the Afghan border in China called Kashgar. Yeah, just one letter off. And the place is very similar. I mean, the architecture of the entire place is pretty much the same. The only thing that is actually different is just the first letter. And that's why we see US forces engaging both Russian and Chinese troops. And we can tell that is the place because Wrecker and Irish were trapped in the Kunlun Mountains, and the Kunlun Mountains are just on the other side of Kashgar, so they could easily have just gone down there. But seriously, why were US troops in Kashgar? I mean, that's all the way on the west side of China, when the US 7th Fleet only had a mission of trying to get Jinjai to safety. One good theory is that maybe they knew Tombstone was in the Kunlun Mountains, and they had gone there in order to save them. But, seriously, why are you going to put troops all the way over there? I mean, you have US troops in Afghanistan, which could be easy prey, but why attack the west coast of China when your whole purpose in the entire game is to avert war? But anyway, I liked that level very much. It showed very good urban warfare, and like I said, we got to see the Russian and the Chinese troops fighting side by side, with the Russians providing armor and infantry, while the Chinese providing special forces and air cover. I know, pretty good idea. So what did you think of the game? I actually liked it pretty much. Like, the premium edition promised no glitches and better graphics. Okay, the better graphics part they fulfilled, but there were a few glitches in that game which I didn't like. But, you know, they made up for it. And in any case, I seriously recommend this game to anyone else. However, I will have to say this, that I think Call of Duty, basically all the Modern Warfare series, are actually better than Battlefield 3 and 4. But, that's just my opinion. And regardless, Battlefield is a very good game, and I would always like to have it when playing a first-person shooter. So, let me know what you think. I will be up tomorrow with another reaction video, and I'm going to be starting a new game soon. Now, since I am starting a new game, I just want to know your opinion. People, would you rather have me do the game with commentary or without commentary? And if so, would you like me to do the game just, regular with commentary, the way I played Battlefield 4? Or would you like it with live commentary, where you see the camera at the bottom of the screen with my reactions? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys tomorrow.